The bonus round is at QuakeCon 2015 with Bethesda's Pete Hines, Andrew Reiner from Game Informer, and Adam Sessler. This week we talk about console MMOs, the Elder Scrolls Online, and is Destiny an MMO or not? We debate right now in the bonus round. Hey guys, we're back here at QuakeCon in Dallas, Texas with Andrew Reiner, Pete Hines, and Adam Sessler. We've had a great time here hanging out with all the guys in the BYOC. It's getting a little later in the day, so we hear a little more yelling now because they're having fun playing Rocket League. This week, we're going to talk about console MMOs. Pete, you guys had the recent experience of bringing out the Elder Scrolls Online to consoles. I have to admit, I haven't really played a lot of console MMOs, although we were saying in the break, like Destiny, you could argue maybe sort of is MMO-esque.
Kind of somewhere around that space.
But maybe I'll start with you, Pete, because I think console MMOs, people have talked about them over the years. There have been Final Fantasies, there have been a couple games that have experimented with it. But you guys obviously had Tesso on PC, decided to bring it to console. You took extra time to sort of get it ready for console. Yep. What has that experience been like? Do you think like console MMOs, is that really gonna, is it gonna grow as a genre?
I hope so. To answer your first question, what was it like? It was really hard. I don't think you folks appreciate at a base level. It's like, yeah, we'll make the controller, work or change the UI, but the stuff that has to happen on an incredibly technical level and passing information back and forth with two completely different platforms that have their own rules and systems for what you're allowed to do, and the simplest things like naming your character and whether or not that name can appear above your character or it has to be your gamer tag, or what friends are you allowed to pull for your friends. There are a million of those things that you have to go through just to get the game to work and function, and how all of that stuff works is a real challenge. Now, having said that, super proud of how well that game turned out and what the response has been. It's been awesome how well the game has done for us, so it's it was all worth it. And now that we've gotten over the hurdle of getting it out, we can kind of shift our attention to, new features and bringing out more content. But it's definitely a challenge and a big undertaking because of all the technical requirements for having all of that stuff work.
I don't know if you know the answers, but is it a different audience that's playing on console, or a lot of the PC people move to console?
It's one of those things that's really hard to tell. I can't look at it. I mean, I could look, I guess, at any specific gamer and see whether or not, do they have Skyrim achievements as well or not. But I think it's a little bit of both on the console. I feel it's a lot more of an Elder Scrolls, Skyrim fan. I don't know how many MMO specific fans there are on console. There's probably some. I don't know how many. But as we were discussing, it's not like there's 25 to choose from. It's a pretty small pool. I do think it has the potential to grow. I do think the way that we did, the Tamriel Unlimited, not really dissimilar to Destiny, right, as far as you buy the game, you just play the game as much as you want, and not having a subscription was pretty important for us, understanding that audience and sort of the way they perceive
right.
MMOs.
I think that's the thing is, and it's more of a business discussion, I guess, but this idea of, it used to be MMOs, certainly in the PC space, you'd spend your $60 to buy the game, and then you'd pay your, probably between $10 to $15 a month for a game. I mean, it's a lot of money. Right. When you add it all up. And I think that's part of the thing, the trepidation, I think, for console companies is if you're going to be spending $15 a month playing a game, there are a lot of games you won't be buying probably on the console.
Right, but you get your bang for your buck, right? You're
hopefully,
dedicating hundreds of hours into these games, right?
Exactly.
To get to the end game and the raids and all that kind of stuff.
And I think the issue on the console is that you are putting a subscription on top of a subscription.
Yes, right.
That does, for folks, get a little bit wait, I already have this one. Why do I need this other one?
Right,
I'm already playing a subscription to play online, and so that does get a little wonky as well.
Now, Pete, do you think, though, that people are going to start to look at the console market as being essential if you're going to have a new MMO, that's going to change, that's going to really shift it from the subscription model into
I don't know if
a one-time fee?
I don't know if they will. I think they should. The PC audience is incredibly diverse. It encompasses just about every possible form of gaming, much more so, I think, than consoles in terms of what is possible and what is what can succeed on that platform. So there's certainly lots of games that you could say I'm going to make for a PC and never even tempt on a console, and you'd be totally right to do so. Having said that, if you're doing an MMO like the one that we did, or some of the ones that have done well in the PC in past, I don't know why you wouldn't look at the console, because one of the things I think hopefully we've gotten over is that people on consoles love games, and they love all kinds of games. You know, back in 2000, people were telling us Morrowind was never going to work on a console because console gamers don't get that kind of thing, and they like platformers or they like these kinds of things, and nobody wants like a sophisticated, deep RPG. And they were incredibly wrong, and RPGs have just completely blown up. MMOs in some ways are the same thing. Like, console gamers are just gamers. We all play games on PC, we all play games on console, and I think MMOs going forward are going to become more popular and prevalent. I don't think it's going to be like this explosion, but I do think if you're making an MMO, folks are going to look harder at that console audience, because it's big and growing. The PS4 audience, the Xbox One audience are
And now
substantial.
you look at, a lot of these games are becoming services, right? I mean, you're playing them all year, they're bringing out new content. I think some people wonder, it's like, well, are those games going to be free to play and then you're going to pay, just for content on top of it? Or, I don't know, what do you think the best model right now, or you guys have found with Elder Scrolls, is like the idea of just, buy the game and keep playing and then get more content?
I really like where we are right now with the Elder Scrolls Online. I've actually been really surprised. So we don't require a subscription, but we do offer this thing that say, look, if you pay this thing, you get a bunch of crowns to spend in the crown store, and then whatever DLC comes out, you just get to play for free. And I was surprised, bordering on shocked, how many people on the console just opted into the subscription. Wasn't required, not a thing that they had to do. I thought it was going to be some percentage, and it was a significant factor.
I think people love the idea of just having the option and not being forced. And it's sort of, if you're given the choice, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this because I know if I choose
play
not
the game
to.
first, you're like,
Exactly.
yeah, I like you. I think I'll take you out to dinner again. Here's some more money.
Well, and I think what the team has done with the Crown Store is a big part of it, because like you get this spending money to just go in and buy like cool new mounts and items and so forth. I think was a big part of that people are like, you're getting more than your $15 worth in stuff that you can buy in the store. So I think that was a big part of it, as opposed to I'm paying $15 just for the privilege of continuing to play the thing I paid you a game for. That's a different mentality, and one again I'm pleasantly surprised folks are really into and enjoy.
And part of the challenge with MMOs generally is just the amount of content that you have to sort of, keep generating. I mean, you guys built an entire team for that. I mean, the amount of effort that it takes to build the game and then maintain it. I mean, Reiner, when you look at MMOs, I mean, there's so many examples of MMOs that came out, promised, glory and fantastic things, and then 8 months later it's like, well, the content drops off, and then you hear the sad story of the MMO being shut down with the final day where the servers are going to go off. There's less of that now, I guess, because there are fewer MMOs. Mm-hmm. But do you think, are companies, do you think they're going to keep investing like that in these games? I mean, it's a huge endeavor.
Well, I think so, yeah. I think, people are rabid for these types of games. Right. Like, they just shut down the rest of the world around them when they get into these games. I mean, it becomes like this epic quest for them. And if you do a game right, like your World of Warcraft, or, I mean, even smaller things like DC Online, that's still, alive and well, thriving. Stuff like that. When you have a community of what do you need, like 500,000 or more, they can keep those games going. EverQuest is still going strong. Like the first EverQuest from, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that now?
I still don't know, though, if we're going to see that. I think it's a very risky endeavor, especially if we're doing a new IP. Yeah. I think you guys had the strength of the Elder Scrolls license. I mean, that's going to get everyone's attention. But if you're going to jump in with something like Guild Wars that no one's ever heard about and it's new, I think for the amount of time it takes to make the game, the amount of money it takes to make that game, and you're going to start developing it without knowing what the market's going to be interested in 5 years down the line, like those are some pretty strong cautions against doing it. And that I think it's actually going to serve the consumer a little bit more, because if people are more thoughtful, it's like maybe we what will make it will be good stuff, rather than just kind of whimsically like we're going to try to cash in because we're an MMO. So.
Well, you look at something like Destiny, that's a great example of a game. I think when they first talked about it, everyone's like, oh, this 10-year experience. Like, we all assumed, oh, it's going to be an MMO, you're going to buy the game, you're going to get a subscription. In many ways, they don't like to use the word MMO, they like to say it's a shared world shooter. And I think because they thought there was a negative connotation to MMO in some way.
Once upon a time, we couldn't call them platformers. They were character-driven action games.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, Destiny, you're right, the business model is different, but ultimately the people that bought the game last September and have bought all the expansions and will buy the Taken King. In effect, they're sort of buying expansions. They're paying them a lot of money for content. They're just not paying a subscription fee.
Right.
Reiner, that model, I mean, do you think, are people playing an MMO in Destiny, they're just not realizing it?
Oh, they definitely are. Yeah. I mean, you get your quests, you get the weekly, Xur comes out, has new weapons for them. Yeah, they're doing that, but also it's a different genre too. It's a shooter. It's a competitive shooter at heart, right? So people latch onto that too, but altogether, it's this cohesive shell of it is an MMO experience. You're just approaching it a little differently than most MMOs do.
It's not a one-to-one with, what's the PlanetSide? Like it's not like, Destiny is just like PlanetSide. Well, it's not. Like you're not doing this like hundreds of people on both sides in these giant battles. But to Reiner's point, like people are going on raids that take 4 hours. People are joining up and playing. There's an online competitive component. Like it has, you're jumping into a thing and doing all of these quests. You're leveling up and deciding what kind of character. People have multiple characters on the server and they change between that sounds like an MMO.
Yeah, grinding for epic loot.
It's just that but they've found their own way. And by the way, I don't blame them for saying like, well, we don't want to refer to it as an MMO. In part because you do have this challenge in a console space that isn't just it's not as prevalent a thing. Right. So you don't want to start using language that is off-putting. If you're just like, yeah, it's an online shooter, everybody's like, oh, well, I like shooters and I play online, so it's fine. Yeah. So I do understand where they're coming from and saying, well, let's not use a word that people are like, ooh, I don't play MMOs. Like, well, do you play Halo? Like, yeah, I love Halo. Oh, well, then it's Halo. Like, oh, okay, well, I'll play Halo. So it is part of a learning process, but I think with Destiny, with the Elder Scrolls Online, DC, all of this other stuff, that you're going to see things doing well. I could totally see a Guild Wars game, which has always done it slightly different anyway. They never did the subscription thing. They said they did you put it out and you can play it, and then they put out more content. I could see them in a next version saying, maybe we should bring this to a console. It's not going to be everybody, but one of the things I think we've seen in our many years collectively in this industry is that games have continued to sort of blur the lines, where you used to have, this is a first-person shooter and it's only a first-person shooter. We were talking earlier about like the Unreal tournaments in the Quake, where it was like, well, this game is this, and then this game is online only, and you don't get as much of that anymore. Now you get you got your RPG in my shooter, and you got your stealth game in my action game.
And I think for like Jeff and Andrew and I, that we wanted to have this taxonomy because it made it easier to talk to the audience. Right. But the game industry was constant in trying to undermine that and make it really, really challenging. Because, I want to say you're this genre, you're a shooter. And it really has blurred the lines where it's almost impractical to designate something an MMO. It really is. It's just an M. Yeah. It's massive.
And so I do think that is part of it, that people are going to be bringing more of that online, connected, ongoing experience to whatever game it is they're making, because it ultimately doesn't matter whether it's a shooter or a fantasy RPG or an action fighter, that you can get this online persistent element to it.
Minecraft. It's a massive game, and it's online, so it's a MMO.
You think of Fallout, you look at that, how is what you guys may not have, but how is what you've done with sort of like Elder Scrolls Online, has that impacted your thinking about Fallout and content and how you bring things out for the community? Or
no, not really. I think, when you're talking about a team like Bethesda Game Studios, I think they're really self-aware of what their audience wants, what their games do well, and how to kind of build and grow what they're doing further. And in their case, they said, look, we're known for the stuff that we do on the PC side. There's all these PC mods, but the percentage of our fan base that ever has used a mod is like, whatever it is, 6% or 8% or whatever. And when you talk about Skyrim, that is just tens of millions of people who have never played with a mod in their life. Well, how do we do that better? How do we bring that fun experience to more? And the answer is, well, we push with somebody like Microsoft to say, your console doesn't support this, but could it? What could we do with you guys to make it happen so that we can take stuff made on a PC, which again, you go back to the original Xboxes and PS2s and PlayStations, like the notion of taking a PC file and dropping it on a console is just completely verboten. Like it breaks every security rule and every closed system. but it's a conversation they're willing to have. Like, yeah, we can make this happen with you. Technology has evolved, and there's ways in which we can.
And the box is ultimately a PC anyway.
You said that, not me.
Exactly.
But to be able to do that across all platforms,
Right.
and to be able to take stuff on the PC and now drop it on a PS4 or an Xbox One is going to allow for those kind of more shared experiences. I think that's a really good direction for Fallout 4 to be going.
Awesome, absolutely. All right, well, thanks, guys. Good hanging out with you here at QuakeCon. We'll check out Fallout later this year, and Elder Scrolls Online out now for PC and console. Thanks, Pete, Adam, and Reiner, and we'll see you next time right here in the bonus round.